Are you ready for some football?
You better be.
With Father Dave and Deacon Bob.
Here we go, baby. Ready or not?
Here we are. Oh, hey, I should do this because I'm a bad podcaster. If you're watching this on video, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and check out faithandreason.com where you can find... No, it's good to promote other happy things that go on.
You're right.
And if you don't do it in the beginning, our stats are like, they basically just want to hear the theme song.
That's probably it.
Most people are going to, and sports, right? That's the driving factor.
So your Buccos won yesterday. Congratulations.
Oh, Baker Mayfield. What do you think about Baker Mayfield? Talk to me as a person.
No, yeah, fine.
Fine.
Yeah, he's just jumped around a bit. It'll be interesting to see how he does. He's always like he's received, and it looks like he generally starts out great.
Yeah.
And then people figure out pretty quick. And
no, that's not fair. He did great with the Browns.
Okay.
I mean, that one his rookie year with the Browns was okay. The second year brought him to the playoffs, beat the Steelers. Third year got hurt.
This is the Browns' year.
Yeah, this could be. We'll get to that in a second. And then they bounced him around. I think he was very poorly treated by the Browns.
Poorly treated.
And now he's being well received in Tampa Bay. So he's a lot of fun to watch.
He really is.
He's not a spectacular player, but he's a hard worker. He did a number of runs. There was one he basically won the game by running a 10-yard run when everything was collapsing on 3rd and 10.
His commercials are great.
And his commercials are great.
So that's really what it's about.
His commercials are great. So the Browns beat the Bengals, though.
Yep. The Broncos lost.
The Broncos lost. Wow, what an embarrassing...
I know.
If you watch the Broncos game, they began with an onside kick. Very gutsy. It didn't work. They also missed a field goal. They missed an extra point, and they lost by 1 point. So they should have won.
Yeah, I'm doing the math. Yep, they should have won.
They should have absolutely...
We'll see how Russell Wilson does. I mean, Sean Payton's... We'll see.
Yeah,
Jury's still out.
Jury's still out. Chargers lost to Dolphins. I don't know if you saw any of those stats.
The Dolphins make me cry.
Do they? Yeah, that's true. I like Tua, and I'm just going to decide to mispronounce everybody's name on this thing. Tekalabaluba.
Yeah, it's not stopped us before.
466 yards passing. Tyreek Hill, the former receiver of the Kansas City Chargers.
Yeah.
Chiefs, rather.
Yep.
Over 200 yards. So they shouldn't have gotten rid of that guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw this online. So the Rams beat the Seahawks.
Yep.
And there was a moment where Aaron Donald is one of the best defenders in the NFL. He plays for the LA Rams. He's a very large and scary human being. And there was a moment where the offensive line just blew the coverage, and so Aaron Donald has a wide open path to Geno Smith. So you could hear on the transcript Geno Smith screaming, "Oh my!" He says something else, which all the comments are like, "That's probably what I would say if somebody was running with that."
Yeah, I guess maybe the bigger surprise, or one of the bigger surprises, was
the Cowboys.
How much they won by. That's for sure.
40-0. The Cowboys beat the Giants.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't matter who it is. That's an unusual game. No, Detroit beating Kansas City.
Yes.
That was kind of I think Detroit will be a better team this year, so that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. That was the Thursday night game.
Yeah, getting to college football, which is what most people care about.
Most people do, but I should mention something. This was kind of funny. I saw this on TV. I didn't understand it. Maybe you can explain it. So Tom Brady, I saw a clip of him. I think he was in Massachusetts getting some kind of honor. Did he play for the Patriots at one point?
I don't think so. He played for Tampa Bay.
Maybe he was on their practice team or something like that. Anyway, there seemed to be something was happening in New England. He was wearing a Patriots jersey.
Well, that's nice of them.
Well, and
probably
that's nice.
The first 10,000 people who came to the game got a jersey.
Probably, and Tom's such a nice guy. He's probably doing that in every stadium. He's just wearing their jersey and he's making people feel better because that's what Tom Brady does.
I'll bet you that's exactly it.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So Notre Dame won. So that's good. So they're 3-0.
Colorado baby.
Won again.
Deion Sanders. Showtime. Was he Showtime?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was a big game. Alabama lost. That never breaks my heart.
Alabama lost in Alabama.
To Texas. First time in 27 games or something like that.
Well, and it's the first time since 2007 they've lost in a non-division right, or something like that.
And double digits. They lost by 10 points, but still
double digits. Still double digits.
U.S. Open, Coco Gauff, American, 19 years old. I mean, just think about that. 19 years old as they hand her a check for $3 million. That's why if you want like things, you should play sports.
Yes, you should always just play. That's the message, everybody. Gamble or play sports. That's really the best. That's the American dream.
It's kind of the two extremes. Djokovic won the men's championship, and he was 36. Oldest person to win, oldest male to win it, and I don't know how long. So he's just unbelievable. But
it's worth saying a little bit more about Coco, because last year, who retired last year? Williams. Was it
Serena?
Serena Williams retired, and so she was the great female, one of the greatest athletes of all time.
Oh, sure.
But it was almost this, well, who's ever going to follow in her footsteps? And that's kind of cool. Like the next year, it's almost like they script these things.
It was interesting, too, because after Coco Gauff won, it was really a touching scene, all the excitement, and then she knelt down and was praying.
Oh.
And one of the ESPN commentators like, boy, she's just taking it all in. And Tony Dungy jumps in later and he goes, she was praying. Actually, people do that. They're not just you're not just taking it in. And then, as you can imagine, Babylon B just jumped on that. ESPN commentators are baffled at this ancient, ritual thing. So, but it was good. It was good. It was a great. Yeah, you didn't probably follow the tournament a lot, but it was a great tournament.
No, I was kind of sucked up in that.
So,
one more is the sports thing.
No, it's one other thing. Go ahead, Bo.
Good. So, you mentioned, and this I guess was a prophecy.
It was.
Last podcast you said that Team USA basketball was struggling and had lost, and I was like, it hadn't lost. Well, then since then it lost.
They've lost multiple times.
Multiple times. So they ended up losing, and So they went to not the finals, but the one where whoever wins gets the bronze medal. They played Canada, and they lost to Canada in overtime. They went home with nothing.
They lost to Canada. We love Canada.
We do.
But losing
we have great respect to Canada.
But losing to Canada in basketball is like
though the biggest players on Canada, the biggest players in Canada, of course, are in the NBA. Now you're actually seeing more and more of these world teams. They've got NBA players. Like NBA has really become a global sport. I mean, even if you think about the last few MVPs, right?
Yeah.
Joker, Giannis, Embiid. Is Embiid?
I don't think so. I mean, just think.
But I'm just saying, we're seeing a shift, even in the greatest players in the NBA.
They're all from around the country.
They're not American born.
New kid coming in is this French kid, right?
Oh, right, Wembyana.
Yeah, and I mean, next thing is we're going to start losing curling.
Don't talk that way.
It's ridiculous.
That is the American sport.
So,
and spike ball.
So chatting with pickleball. I played pickleball for the first time at my little brother's place.
What is it? That's like a weird hybrid of like ping pong and
tennis, kind of. Yeah, it's really, excuse me, it's really fun. We had a great time.
Do you have to have a special court?
Yes, it's like a really very small version of a tennis court.
Do we have a pickleball court?
There are no pickleball courts in Steubenville, but down at Casey Hall, we're putting in pickleball courts.
Ooh.
So we are trending here at Franciscan
baby.
University. So I was chatting with my mother, and my mother yelled at me. Yeah.
She had every good reason.
Yep. She said,
I believe in you, Margie. You're a good mom.
Because she is a good mom. But I thought we talked about Yosemite. Did we talk about Yosemite?
I don't think we talked about Yosemite. I think we talked about you going to Yosemite. You know what I bet happened?
We canceled that week.
No. Well, I think actually this is what happened. So sometimes people ask us, how much do you prepare for these podcasts?
A lot.
The answer is 10 minutes before we start recording. And then often within the first 60 seconds, everything we talked about, we forget about.
Except for the last section.
The last section we care about. Yeah. So I actually think a couple of weeks ago, you and I had a great conversation about your trip.
But we didn't.
And then we hit record, and we were like, we should talk about that. And then I think it was the Jurassic Park anniversary, and then that just,
took over things. Us. So went to Yosemite. Mom and I went, and you've not been?
Is it outdoors?
It is.
No, I've not been.
Most of it is.
Okay.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
No, it really is. It's just stunning. It was one of the things that I've been able to travel a lot in the United States, and one of the few things that I had never seen that I really wanted to see. And it is...
Is Old Faithful there?
No, that's Yellowstone.
Oh.
It is...
Is Yogi Bear there?
He is. Okay. Actually, there's signs all over
hey, Babu.
That says speed kills bears, because they don't want you... It's like, what are they doing speed anyway, man?
That's
Drugs,
right.
Just say no.
Didn't they see Cocaine Bear?
Yeah. Oh, that was a fine movie. A fine movie. But it was great. It really is. It's just... I mean, I kind of was obsessed with El Capitan because of that movie. We've talked about it. Free Solo, the guy who climbs El Capitan.
Is that the guy that cut off his arm?
No,
Oh,
that was
good.
Aaron Ralston. But he climbs El Capitan without ropes. I mean, just
What's the one the guy cuts off his arm? I don't like that one. I
like
didn't even see it.
127 hours or something.
Yeah, where
like
was
that.
he? Where was he though?
In Utah. Yeah, he got.
Is that where Yellowstone is?
No, that's in Yellowstone is in Wyoming and
Oh.
so Wyoming, Montana.
Wait, where were
Yes,
you?
sir. Yosemite.
They all sound so similar.
Yeah, they do. Yellowstone, Yosemite,
They have the same amount of syllables.
El Capitan, and Half Dome. So it was great.
What is El Capitan?
It's a huge mountain, granite rock face. We've talked about the guy that climbed it without ropes.
I mean, you might have. I probably
did.
just went into my happy place.
Yeah, it was great. But it really is. As far as beauty, natural beauty, it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been.
That's awesome.
Yep, so you should go sometime.
And did you guys go glamping?
No, Mom and I stayed in a little hotel.
Okay.
We also ate at Diners, Drive-In, and Dives. That's the places we ate on the way there, on the way back.
From
It's a
that
TV
show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had fun, and we rated them, and it was great.
Oh, that's
It was
awesome.
great. It was a good time.
Well, thank you, Margie, for screaming at Dave. You need to do that more often.
Screaming
in my opinion.
Screaming might have been not the best characterization of what she did. Let me just put it out there.
Oh, wait, but we ended sports.
All right.
And now, man, I'm going to get this right someday. Come visit Franciscan University.
And play pickleball.
Yeah, in our new courts at Casey Hall. Our visit days begin September 22nd. They're held Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays throughout the fall semester. You and your family can enjoy a tour of campus, meet with our admissions staff, join us for daily mass, and have lunch in the dining hall. We saved the best for last.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. We also offer special visit days for specific programs, including nursing, education, criminal justice, social work, the sciences, and athletics. Schedule your visit at franciscan.edu/visit. That's franciscan.edu/visit. And we can't wait to see you.
They could possibly have a sighting. They could possibly have a sighting of you.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Or you.
Yeah.
You're probably traveling.
Yeah. But that could be like just an added bonus.
You can come in. It's kind of like a Where's Waldo.
Yeah.
It's like a Where's Bobo.
Yep. I like it. I like it.
Come
So
visit, by the way. You know, I would say this, even if you already know like what college you're going to and it happens to not be Franciscan, just come visit us anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's a it's a beautiful place. We'd love to see you. The liturgies are wonderful. I always like to tell
pretty
people the
inspirational
first
place.
Yeah, I like to say the first weekend of every month, every Saturday, we have a festival of praise, which is just a wonderful gathering of students and worship. And so if you come on a Friday and you stay for the weekend, it's a kind of a little quasi-retreat for everybody. And yeah, it's a real gift. So
Cool.
please come if you can.
I ran into you twice on the highways.
And both times I completely
totally
missed
not
you.
even right.
Right.
Once was at your favorite restaurant, Taco Bell.
No, that's not my. That's not my favorite. It's my kid's favorite restaurant. Yeah.
And the other was you were late for mass.
I was.
I called and he goes, I go, hey, you didn't even see me or wave or say hi. He goes, I'm late for mass.
Yeah, I was trying to get to the 11 o'clock mass, which I did. 10:58. Plenty of time to spare.
Yeah.
Plenty of time to spare. So, hey, speaking of church, something really cool happened this week.
Yeah, Sylvester Stallone met the Pope.
Wait,
Did you see that?
Stop everything. Why
It's
don't we talk about this
hysterical.
ahead of time? Go on.
Because you gotta some things have to surprise you.
Yeah, I guess so.
There's some great pictures. Yeah, apparently I don't know how it all worked out, but Sylvester Stallone, his wife, and a couple of his kids met the Pope, and the Pope actually said to
Rocky meets The Rock. That's the headline.
Yep. And the Pope says, "Yeah, we grew up to your movies." And I'm thinking, how old are you if an 86-year-old is saying we grew up on your movies?
Yeah,
So-
I know.
And then apparently Rocky put up his fist. And he
I was
said,
going to say, you have to do like the fist pose
It's just
anytime you're
so-
with Stallone.
Google it. Some of the photos are just
Oh, that's fantastic.
hysterical.
That's great. Well, in lesser news,
Right.
I mean, obviously, there's nothing that can, nothing can compete with that. But did you hear about the family that the Pope beatified, right? Or canonized?
I don't. I did not hear a lot about it, no. And I thought it was beatified, but...
It is. It is. I'm looking at it now. I actually have information in front of me, so this is great. It's the Ulma family. It's a family in Poland. It's an incredible story. OSV has this beautiful 10-minute video if you guys check out OSV. But an entire family is being beatified. What occurred was that the Ulma family were hiding Jews in Poland during Nazi-occupied World War II. And so the Nazis found out about it. They killed, obviously, the Jews, but then they killed the parents, and then they decided to kill all the kids. So they killed Josef and Victoria, who was very late in pregnancy, and they had 6 other children, 8, 7, 6, 4, 3, and then 1, and just shot them all. And Victoria, after she was shot, went into birth, because she was that far along. So just a tragic story, as there were so many tragic stories of World War II, but also a beautiful story.
What a witness.
It was an incredible witness. And Joseph his hobby was photography. There wasn't a lot of cameras back then. So there's just lots of pictures of this family. They seem just joyful and beautiful. Nobody knew they were hiding Jews, and some people say, well, how did the Jews even know to go to them? And it was just because of their generosity that they thought that this would be the family that they could be taken care of, and they certainly did. They all gave their lives. And so it's the first time a family has been beatified altogether. It's the first time, it's the youngest life to ever be beatified, in the sense of she was, literally gave birth, and that's one of the ones that are beatified. And the feast day that they're doing for this family is their wedding anniversary.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is really not the day of their death, but it's the wedding anniversary. So it's really just awesome in terms of like a holy family. I just love it. I just love a lot of the stuff that Pope Francis does like this.
Well, it's one of the things that he spoke about a long time ago, or very early in his pontificate, and that was to raise up men and women. When you look at the statistics, the number of priests, religious, virgins, and he wanted to raise up more families. And so this is a great example of that. But this story is pretty profound. There's been, accusations that the church or Christians didn't do much for the Jewish people during the time, and that simply, could we have done more? I suppose we could always do more, right?
Right.
But this is a great story of literally people who gave their life to make sure. Yeah, that's a beautiful story. Mom and Dad were how old? Like,
so Dad was 44 and Ulma was 32.
My goodness.
So, they obviously the Nazis wanted to make an example of them, so other Polish families wouldn't shelter Jews. But it really it's just an ordinary holiness in extraordinary circumstances. We can be grateful, at least in a place like the United States, that we don't suffer that kind of persecution. We suffer other kinds of persecution. And I think when you see somebody give their lives as they did, they knew exactly the risks, right? Like it wasn't like, oh, wait, that you'll kill us for that? Like it was the Nazis. It was occupied Poland. They knew if we let this family live with us and we take care of them, that this could be the end of our family. And even with little kids, I think the temptation would be to say, like, look, I would do it,
right.
But I'm a father. I can't put my children at risk with that. And yet, the witness of faith is just, it's just really so.
It's pretty
beautiful.
heroic too. Just again, one of the things the Holy Fathers wanted to do is focus on families. I know that I've just gone blank. Lewis and what's Lewis's?
Zelli?
Yeah, Lewis and Zelli, right. So you've got 3 of that family.
And was that John Paul II beatified them? I think, were they canonized under?
I'm not sure if they're canonized under he or under Benedict. Something tells me it was Benedict, but I could be mistaken.
But that was a huge start, John Paul II opening the door for seeing sainthood in that.
It's cool because when you go to Czestochowa, there's a statue of them. The husband and wife there, and also actually John Paul's parents as well in another place. But it's just so important that we see models and examples of people, of saints, and I would say from a family perspective, that look like us, right?
Right.
There's all kinds of priests that have been canonized, but moms and dads that, now this is unbelievably heroic circumstances.
Sure.
They obviously give their life to be able to protect these people, but which is great, which is why I don't want to take away from that at all, right?
Right.
But also just the moms and dads that are just faithful in the day-to-day
Right.
and trying to love their kids and be patient with one another and support one another and pray and those kinds of families that are all around us. You know,
Yes.
I always joke that it'd be nice if we had some award for the family that was just being a family,
Just
right?
being a family, right.
It's people like this that often, rightly so,
Yes.
get honored.
Well, and I think, it's those extraordinary circumstances that let us recognize the sainthood in ordinary circumstances. I mean, I think of, someone like Saint Monica, right? Who prayed so much for her son's conversion. And she was canonized because her son converted. So that's how we know of her holiness, and that's why she's lifted up. But if her son hadn't converted, she would have still had the same level of holiness.
Saintliness, right.
The saintliness. Like, we wouldn't know her, we wouldn't have canonized her, but that wouldn't make her any less holy. And so I would say a similar thing. I know so many parents and grandparents, they're praying for their kids, and of course we all want our best for the kids. We want them to know Jesus. Our holiness doesn't depend on the result of it.
Success,
as Mother Teresa always said, it's faithfulness, it's not success. And so it's great to see the successes, quote unquote, even if successes end up in what seems like a tragedy, and that encourages us, I think, to be faithful. I was speaking to Mother Teresa. We have this ministry on campus called SENT, Student Evangelization Network Team. It's kind of like a mini net, and we send students out to high schools, particularly for a lot of confirmation programs. So they asked me to speak at it, which was great. I was very, very happy to do so. But one of the opening speakers was Father Dentino, who's the brother of Dan Dentino, who is our Dean of Students. VP of
Student Life.
And so he's a missionary of charity. He actually lives out in Kenya doing some great work. But he was just talking about Mother Teresa. And he started off by asking the question, how many of you know Mother Teresa? And a number of hands went up. And he said, that's great. He said, this doesn't happen a lot when I talk to younger people because, an older generation, we have vivid memories of seeing Mother Teresa. Sure. But I'd say it's kind of like 9/11, which we're celebrating today, even though you'll hear this 2 days later. Like, it always stuns me that a younger generation,
they weren't alive.
It's not their fault. They weren't alive. They didn't know about it. But going back to Mother Teresa, he said that, her real gift was just how she radiated love.
Yeah.
Like, she was present to people. It was she did very ordinary things. Like, she just helped people die with dignity, and she did this in a non-Christian country, and she's been revered really as just a hero for humanity. And so
we should start these crusades. If I was Pope, that's what's going to be our section. That's going to be our new section.
If I was Pope, all right.
If I was Pope, who would we beatify, or who would we canonize, or what would we do? That's a good section for us to have. But
is there somebody you're thinking of?
Sylvester Stallone?
Yeah, of course. Let's do it before people die.
Yeah, that's right.
What could possibly go wrong?
But here's the thing: is that I've been giving this a bit of thought recently. I think we live in a world. Is it going to be harder to make saints? I think of some of the Old Testament David. We're going to cancel him. Paul, we're going to cancel Paul.
Yeah.
Timothy, absolutely not. It's just in the modern age where, I don't know.
Certainly in Western culture, I think so. I think in our American culture, Father Dentino said something interesting. He said that he's one of the, actually it wasn't Father Dentino, Father Gregory, who introduced Father Dentino, said something. Because Father Gregory had discerned the MCs, Missionary of Charities, before he became TOR. But when he was discerning with them, the missionaries of charity said, it's really hard for Americans to become missionaries of charity, to live in the extreme poverty. And they have a tough time with it. I remember, I don't remember, but I wasn't there, when Paul VI beatified Elizabeth Ann Seton, who was our first native-born American saint that was canonized. Obviously, Kateri was really the first one, but she wouldn't be canonized for a little bit later. I read this homily to my students because she's such a great catechetical figure, but it's a little bit of a patronizing homily where he was saying, you did it. Nobody would believe that America could produce a saint, but you did it. And it was like, thanks.
Wait,
what? But, we do live, we're just not even aware of our wealth, of our culture, of how far gone our culture is. And there's other places in the world where this is not the case. So I would say that I think in the United States, we do seem to have a lot going against us in terms of, sanctity and holiness. And it's a battle worth fighting.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have every grace available to us that all the other saints have had as well. But the world that it's being fought in right now is profoundly troubling.
Yeah.
I mean, it just is. And then the other part of it is the media age that we live in that highlights everybody's mistakes or everybody's wrongdoing or even perceived wrongdoings.
Right.
And it's funny, in a culture that is permissive of everything, it's forgiving of nothing.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to be so difficult, I think, for young people.
It's a numbing culture. That's what I would say. It
yeah.
numbs the conscience. It numbs our ability to act. It's so relativistic. And that's why, the challenge of the gospel, I think that's the call of vocation. It's, even just this last Sunday, the readings were so strong, about being the watchman to Ezekiel. And look, you need to say something. If you say something and they don't convert, that's on them. If you don't say something, that's on you.
Right.
And that's a
really,
challenge.
Yeah, and that's really what the church has done. I mean, and she's ridiculed for it, but she has to be who she is.
Yeah.
She has to be that. So that's great. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit, but I think a really good transition for us. And I actually texted you last week. I said we didn't say anything about the Holy Father going to Mongolia.
Oh yeah, right.
Which was just a really beautiful. I mean, there's only something like 1,500 Catholics in the entire country of Mongolia.
Yeah.
And the Holy Father goes there, and I don't know if you watched any of the videos
I
of
didn't.
it. It was
I saw some of the pictures.
It was really, really. Literally, his closing mass was basically with all the Catholics in the country.
Yeah.
And listening to some of their stories and their history, and it was interesting. I read an article that said the Church always has a view of the long game, and forgive me, it was a friar in 1248 or something like that was the first one to go to Mongolia. And it didn't go over very well. But here we are, however many 100 years later, we're going back. Sometimes we look at the church in 12, 15 years, generational. But the Holy Father, the images of the Holy Father there was beautiful. But what it speaks to, and it's really what our theme is going to be about, we had talked about taking a look at the Synod, is this whole idea that one of the core elements of the Synod coming up is communion.
Yeah.
And
there's three elements. We're going to go over the next two. The other times but today we're talking about communion.
Yeah. And a common theme of the Holy Father is those who are marginalized. How can we be in relationship? How can we be in communion? Some of the people, when they hear the word communion, all they think of is Eucharist. And that's really not, it's part of it in one sense.
Right.
But it's really not the thrust of what the Holy Father is, or the Synod, the bishops and those will be participating looking at what does it look like for us to be in communion? And one of the things that the Holy Father has said time and time and time again is this sense of being able to reach out to the marginalized, right? Those who are on the edges. And we see that, why would the Pope go to a country where there's only 1,500 Catholics?
Right.
Right, because they've been marginalized. Why would the Pope go to Iraq in the middle of the Middle East to a population? Because they've been marginalized. They haven't been seen. They haven't been listened to. They haven't been heard. So that's what the Holy Father is continuing to do. And this invitation to communion is that. What does it look like for us as a church to be in relationship with another, to be able to be in communion? I mean, I'm sure close to your heart is his call to the youth.
Yes.
Is the youth who have often been marginalized. And we've talked about this, yes, we want to listen to the youth. That's not to say that they're the final word,
right?
But they need to be listened to. And that's really what the Holy Father, one of the things of the Synod is to listen to this population that has largely been marginalized.
Right.
And some people find that very troubling or intimidating, but I think it's an important step that we all need to be able to work through and walk through is what does it look like to listen to a population that haven't been seen, that haven't had a voice, that nobody's noticed. And that's really what one of the elements of this Synod is about.
Interestingly enough, they even quote a phrase. We talk about the preferential option for the poor, and one of the language of the documents talks about a preferential option for the youth. That we should really treat young people in a similar way as that marginalized group, particularly when it comes to when it comes to the faith. I had a chance this last week to be in Virginia. Shout out to the Diocese of Arlington, who do such great ministry, particularly with youth and young adults. And I did a talk on Catholic social teaching. And one of the things that's really, people are often surprised about Catholic social teaching is it's very much into this idea of subsidiarity, which is not to do something for somebody, but to help them do something. And even Leo XIII said, if we don't do that, we just end up in a welfare state where the government takes care of everybody.
Right.
But the church has always said the church should be taking care of everybody. And I'm tying this in even locally in the United States, because we have so many government resources, agencies, other things that take care of the poor or the marginalized. Many Catholics feel like, well, I pay my taxes, so they're taken care of, right? Or there's all these other government restrictions or things that get in the way of reaching the marginalized. Or certainly we live in a society where we just don't want to see them.
Mm-hmm.
We just kind of take people off the streets. And so, the idea of, a new thought of what does it mean to be marginalized, reaching out to the young, reaching out to the poor, finding those opportunities even in our local neighborhoods of where can we help and where can we support.
Right.
That's kind of a practical view of it. But just having a church that has a heart for that, and I think it is. I would also go back to the synod on Amazon. I remember when the Pope wanted to call a synod for the Amazonian people. Now, there's not many. These are just tribes who are untouched, or if they're Catholic, they can't receive the Eucharist. Mm-hmm. Everybody kept wondering what was his hidden agenda. Many people were like, he's going to use this to say priests should be married.
Right.
And it was almost like in Western culture. I remember I did read somebody in the Register. He did a really good job of reflecting back on that synod when it was all over and said, everybody thought he had an agenda. His only agenda was actually to figure out how can we bring the Catholic faith to the Amazonians. Right. And the first response was, we're talking about just thousands of people. We're not really, why would we do a whole synod for that?
Because one person matters.
Yeah, amen.
And that's really what I think that maybe a bottom line is that everybody, we talked about this as we began, that everybody needs to, I think, relax a little bit. There's some people are anxious. They're nervous about what's going to come out from it. But that's not a bad example, honestly, about everybody expected, married clergy are going to come, and that didn't happen. Who knows? We're not exactly sure, and we'll have to wait and see what's going to come out.
Yeah.
But the thing is that marginalized in the population, obviously, there are two populations that have gotten quite a bit of attention, the gay and lesbian population and transgender population and the divorced, right? Yeah. And I mean, the Holy Father, for all of the critique that people have had of him, I mean, he's made it really clear about what he thinks about, gay marriage, about homosexual activity. And you can all find the quotes that says, who am I to judge and all those. And there's a lot of context that's lost in that. But what the Holy Father is saying is we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
We need to have this conversation. One of the critiques
let me throw in a latest example. I think this happened during the World Cup, is the Holy Father actually said homosexual activity is a sin, but it should not be criminalized or punished, like in terms of countries that will arrest people and kill people for it. Only that second half of the quote actually made it out.
Right. Homosexuality should be legalized.
The quote was homosexuality should not be criminalized or punished. Right. But then they missed the first phrase where he reinforced the fact that we do think this is sinful. That being said,
people shouldn't be killed for it.
People shouldn't be killed. There shouldn't be unjust discrimination, et cetera, what the church has always taught. And I think sometimes we're almost afraid to say the positive.
Exactly.
We're going to
cause a strain.
Yeah.
Well, and it's been interesting. Again, much of it is how the media chooses or what people choose to read. And that's
True.
an important thing about this. But, the Holy Father said, as we find in the Scripture, everyone is welcome. And that's true. Everybody is welcome. And if everybody is not welcome, then that means some people are not welcome. Mm-hmm. And if some people are not welcome, that could be you're not welcome or I'm not welcome.
Right.
Now, with that being said, it is also true that we are invited to live the commandments. It is also true that we're invited to be faithful to the gospel. So that this sense, and sometimes I just wish the Holy Father would say, I had one more sentence, right?
Right.
But it doesn't deny the fact that everybody is welcome. Everybody's called. Jesus came to save everybody, right? And that's just a question. What does it look like that those people who don't feel the gospel is for them? Now, again, We are not saying that we need to water down the gospel, that we need to change church teachings, but what does it look like to minister to these populations that are so marginalized? And I don't know what it's going to look like.
Right.
I think that's the question is, what is this going to look like? So,
well, and maybe the last thing about it, this includes ecumenism. This includes like reaching out to other people who believe in Jesus, Eastern churches, Protestant groups. His motto has been in this: walk together, work together, pray together, and have a renewed commitment to Christian unity. And I like just the whole title of this is it's not just communion, it's a communion that radiates. The vision is that when you look at the church, and we all experience this, would we say that the Catholic Church is a communion that radiates? Do we radiate unity? No, we don't. Are we divided? Yes, we are. And so asking some of these tough questions is really a challenge. And I think that idea of being on mission, like when we're on mission together, and the focus isn't just on us and my own preferences, but on what's the Lord calling us to do and how can we work together. I know for me, that's always a great way of finding. Now I have a reason to find things in common with another that maybe I wouldn't have in the beginning.
All right, well, let's pick up on mission next week then.
That sounds great.
All right. Heavenly Father, we ask your continued blessing upon us. We pray for all the families out there that you would continue to make them saints. I pray that they not be discouraged, that the call that you've given to them is difficult and your grace is more than available. Bless the church as she prepares for the synod coming up, that we would go in seeking the truth and coming to understand the truth as it's been revealed to us, and bring your peace. May Almighty God bless us, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
God bless you, Robert.
And God bless you, Father Dave. And thank you, all of you who send us emails, who listen, who tell other people about it. You're awesome. We're praying for you. You can send us an email, hope@franciscan.edu, hope@franciscan.edu.
Go Broncos. And the Fighting Irish.
Yeah, I think we can agree on the Fighting Irish.
All right.
Do we have a second college that we care about?
No, other than us.
Other than us.